start a recording. Okay, so we're not going to do an abstract, but the title page, and let me say this where everybody can hear me, right? If it's not on the APA example, don't put it in, right? So people try to put in things that make their paper stand out, like underlining the title or putting quotation marks or stuff like that. But we only use what is prescribed by APA style. So in this case, it's just the title and subtitle. Now, what do you notice about this one?
It's got 2 lines.
It does, and how are they formatted? Centered and double spaced, right?
And boldface.
Yeah.
And bold-faced, and every word is capitalized.
Right.
So, and then you come down what looks like 4 lines right there, and you have your name and the name of your college, the name of the course, the professor's name, and the date, the due date. That's always the due date for the work. So if you're working on it 3 days early or whatever, just put the due date in there. So that's kind of easy. Sometimes the formatting is a little bit difficult, and adding page numbers can be a bit of a trip, but we'll work on that too. And then the title page, I'm sorry, the abstract, we're not going to fool with that. Still kind of reading in the back of my head here. I wish I could see it where it clearly said the abstract is not required in the student paper. Well, you can just say that I said it. Okay, so those are the 4 main paper sections, and you will see that again. It may be on the course final. What are the 4 major paper sections? And they are the title page, the abstract, the main body, and the references. The only place, as you saw, the title page is prescribed, right? There's only certain information that goes on that page. If you look right there, I know it's little, but you can see there's just a little bit of writing in the middle of the page, right?
Right.
Y'all still seeing this?
I do.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, okay. And sometimes I scroll so many times it quits showing up. So you can't add anything else to that. And the same thing with the reference page. When you get to the reference page, the only thing that's on there is the page heading that says references, and then the number of references that you have used in your paper. I think the first paper asks you to use 3. We'll look at that and make sure, but I think that's what I remember. And so the only place you're not going to do an abstract page. So where is the majority of your work going to be displayed?
The main body.
Yes. Yeah, that's where you make up all your words. If you got to add words to it, you got to put them in the main body and one of those 5 paragraphs, right? Introduction, 3 supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion. But that's where you're going to get the meat and potatoes of your paper. Does that answer your question about? We had a question about abstract, and I just covered that, right?
So on the title page, do we, like, for the paper that's due February 5th, we put that at the very bottom?
The title page is the first page in the stack, so it'll go at the very top.
And then it has the so
Skip
we
the
would be the
abstract.
author, right?
Yes, you're the author. So
Okay.
that'll be your name right there. Yeah, don't type Polly Purdue in there. I'll have a heck of a time finding you in the role. So yeah, you're the author. So then you just put. And here's the thing: a lot of students like to abbreviate. Georgia Northwestern Technical College has a lot of letters in it, but you got to spell it out, right? You got to spell it out. And then English 1101, whatever the course name is, composition and rhetoric, and then my name, and then the due date.
All right.
Okay. Did I answer? And by the way, make sure you're following
Is this
student.
found in our lessons?
Is this found in your lessons? This is, no ma'am, this is found in the Purdue OWL.
Okay.
Now your Purdue OWL, the link for Purdue OWL is found in your lessons.
Okay.
You should see it in the black, I don't know where you are right now. Maybe it's covered up with all this other stuff. But in your main menu, there should be a link over there that says the Purdue OWL. Come here. And I know it's can be a little bit intimidating because it's kind of expansive. There's a lot of stuff, but let's just, once we get in here, right, we got guidance on how to do in-text citations. So we can click on the basics and it'll tell us what to do. Specifically, it says that most everybody knows that if you use a direct quote, right, with quotation marks around it, you have to do a source cite. But APA says that if we're summarizing or restating the ideas of another author, that we have to state that as well, or we have to cite that as well. So even, you know, we were in the 7th grade, the teachers would say, well, restate it in your own words. And but even if we do that, we have to cite it anyway. What's the one, Autumn? What's the one benefit to not using a direct quote?
You don't have to cite it?
You have to cite it, but you don't have to put the page number.
Oh.
Yeah. If you don't use a direct quote, you don't have to include the page number. If you do use a direct quote, you have to use the page number in there somewhere. And there is a difference between short quotations and long quotations, right? 40 words or longer gets done in a freestanding block. So you have to format it differently. So if you don't want to format it differently, what do you need to do? You got to limit that quote to less than 40 words. Yeah. Limit it to less than 40 words or put it in your own words. Yep. Summarize it. There's nothing wrong with using long quotations, and sometimes you can throw them in there, and there's an example of how they get done differently. And it kind of fills up some space. Just make sure that it's important to your paper, not just fluff. Here's your reference list. Only the first word of a title will be capitalized, right? And then they show you writing new media. So there's tons of information here that will help you figure out what you're doing while you're working. And this one about authors and authors, this goes along if you have one author or 2 authors or more than 3 authors, or don't have an author, there's ways to do that. I think if you don't have an author, you use the title right there. I think that's the title and the date of publication. Then you got the reference list. When you get to your reference page, right, you got basic rules for the reference list, what it's supposed to look like, what you're supposed to do with it, what comes in each space, little rules and stuff. So you do not italicize or underline the article title. If the source is an article, I bet I said this, well, let's see how many students. I got about 80 students. I bet I said it 75 times. Something has to be italicized in every listing. If it's a book, we italicize the title and the subtitle. If it's an article of any type, then we italicize the name of the container instead. How are we doing? Everybody still with me?
Yep.
Yes.
This stuff is fun. I've been known to go to parties and set this slideshow up and entertain people. And I mean, they just have, this just a hoot. They just have a big time.
I have a feeling you're lying.
Okay, you got me on that one. Yeah, you got me
There's
on
just so
that one.
much to it, you know.
It is, but here's the thing. Of all the variations, when you get down to it, we use the same 8 or 10 styles all the time. And I will say this, don't try to memorize it. There's so much stuff and so many variations, you can't memorize it all. And I've been using it for, 20 years, and I still come back here to the OWL and check all my references and my in-text citations, all my authors' names. I come back and check it to make sure I've got it right before I submit my papers, just because there's so much that can be different. By the way, when I'm replying to your work, I very seldom ever actually go to the article to the OWL and check on what you've written. If there's any question about it or I can't remember, I'll usually put it, like, is this supposed to be in italics? And I'll put a question mark, and then you can go back and look. Capitalize all the major words in the titles of journals, right? That's the name of the container. A journal is a container. Just, you can, oh, darn dog. My dogs are so big, they just come in here and run their nose up under my elbow. And then my little cursor just goes askew. We talked about articles and periodicals the other night, I think, didn't we? Autumn, do you remember what a periodical is?
We talked about this the other night.
I think so. I would tell you to go back and check the the recording, but I don't think I ever got it posted. So,
Well, apparently I've had sleep since then.
Oh, quit. No. So a periodical is anything that's published on a regular and recurring basis. It can be a daily publication like a newspaper or a weekly publication. It could be a quarterly like a periodical journal. Anything that's magazines come out monthly. So if it's published on a regular and recurring basis, it's considered a periodical. And for the practice resources I gave you, you'll find at least three of them in this one tab, right? You'll find newspaper, Oh, Gunnar, you got to go away now. You're hurting. Quit. He's just so persistent. Go sit down. And then the electronic journal. So all of those are different forms of periodicals, so they're all in one tab. But then we have a tab specifically for books that'll tell you how to do the entry for a book. If it's edited, no author. If it's a translation, I used a translation of a paper that was done once. It was originally published in German, and I included it in a paper. So I had to do it this way because it had been translated. You won't have to do that, because what am I going to tell you if you ask me how to do a translation?
You don't need to do one?
Yes, I'm going to tell you to find another resource. Find another resource. You don't